1233rd meeting. But as far as I'm a country rapporteur on Kuwait, I'll be sitting over there as a just ordinary expert, and I ask if Mr. Khalitsai, who is the vice chairperson, will be presiding this meeting. Thank you, Mr. Khalitsai.
Very good afternoon. I'd like to welcome the distinguished delegation from Kuwait, headed by the Chargé d'Affaires of the Permanent Mission of Kuwait in Geneva. We will be listening from them as they introduce the report. This is the 15th to 20th periodic report of the State Party. So, head of the delegation, Chargé d'Affaires in Kuwait, I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to you, sir, and your delegation, and I'd like to hear you make your statement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, it is with a great pleasure for me and my delegation to present Kuwait's report to your august body today. Please allow me, first of all, to ask members of my delegation to present themselves.
طلال المطيري مستشار في الوفد.
Talal Al-Mteri, permanent advisor in the permanent mission of the state of Kuwait. Nawaf Naman, attaché by the Kuwait mission.
سعود الحربي وزارة التربية.
Saud Al-Harbi, Ministry of Education. Selma Al-Ajmi, an advisor in the Committee of Women Affairs in the Cabinet. Mr. Al-Shati from the Ministry of Health. Khalifa Al-Jawhar from the Ministry of Interior. Iman Al-Nasser from the Center for Residents Without Lawful Papers. Microphone. Mr. Zaini, Ministry of Social Affairs and Labour. Dr. Zaki Al-Serini, Ministry of Labour. Mr. Al-Jaber, Judge.
I want to apologize to the Kuwaiti delegation. I just want to say something about the submission of your report. You have 45 minutes to introduce this report, after which Mr. Aftomanov, as country rapporteur, will speak for 30 minutes. After the rapporteur, Mr. Aftomanov, each and every member of the committee will take the floor and will address questions or comments. So we will be drawing up a list of the distinguished members of the committee so that we have a speaking order. Tomorrow, you will also have 1 hour to provide an answer to the questions and comments that the members of the committee have made to you this afternoon. Now, if this afternoon we have some time left over, naturally you can answer some of the questions that have been put relating to the questions from the committee members. and it may well be that you have further answers tomorrow, on the basis of which we will have an interactive dialogue. A member of the committee or several members of the committee, after each and every intervention, the Kuwaiti delegation will have an opportunity to answer those comments or directly answer the questions made by the members of the committee. Subsequently, the rapporteur will have from 5 to 10 minutes to make his final observations, and indeed you will have an opportunity to give us your impression of how you felt this interactive dialogue went. So, chargé d'affaires, having said that, I'd very much like to give you the floor again. Thank you in advance.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Ya ayyuhan.
In the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate, people, we have created you, males and females and tribes, in order to know that the loftiest amongst you is the most pious. Mr. President, the state of Kuwait made human rights one of the most important pillars upon which the state has been established when it ratified its constitution in 1962. And this stemmed from its belief and it is in accompaniment of its Arab and Islamic nature and its history that is deep-rooted in the respect for the dignity of human being and the non-discrimination amongst people. Hence, the rules and the legislations that were enacted in Kuwait that prevent any form of discrimination. Article 29 of the Constitution stipulates that all people are equal in human dignity and in public rights and duties before the law, without distinction on the race, as to race, origin, language, or religion. Moreover, there were other laws, such as the publication laws and the audiovisual laws. If the world efforts continue to make strides in order to eliminate discrimination, Kuwait made strides also in that venue. It associated itself to the convention, it acceded to it, and it made it part of its Article 70 of the Constitution, which gives it the same force as national laws. Mr. President, this review is an opportunity for Kuwait to show you our national experience in the field of fighting discrimination and to shed light on the efforts that we have taken in combating and eliminating discrimination. We have many national mechanisms that work in the field of human rights. Firstly, Ministry of Interior's Committee on Human Rights, which was established in 2001 in order to review the allegations of human rights violations. Number two, the Committee for the Affairs of Women, which was established in 2002, and it follows the affairs of the Kuwaiti women on the national and international levels. The Higher Committee for Children and Family, which was established in 2005 to review the laws and the plans regarding children, women and family. The High Commission for Human Rights, which was established in 2008, headed by the Minister of Justice, with the membership of many ministries and other governmental organizations and bodies. The Central Office for Unlawful Residence, which was established in 2010. The Division on Domestic Labor, which belongs to the Ministry of Interior, which inspects regularly the labor importing agencies, as well as the dissemination of information and the establishment of more than a private committee for human rights. There was a ministerial decree that established a special committee to establish an independent national organ for human rights in accordance with Paris principles, and that is within the plan of Kuwait to live up to its international obligations before the Council for Human Rights when its national report was discussed in the UPR in May 2010. Action is being taken currently in coordination with the OHCHR in order to draft the final version of this law. And Mr. Chairman, the state of Kuwait had taken many legal actions and measures to eradicate and combat discrimination. And here we should like to refer to many rights, such as the right to litigate, which is guaranteed by the Constitution in accordance with Article 166 of the Constitution. And here we must refer that the Criminal Act and the Criminal Procedure Act guarantees the legal safeguards, such as an open trial and the right to have legal counsel and others. Equality and fairness, rejection of discriminations are rights that are entrenched in the Constitution and cannot be superseded or violated. Article 7 of the Constitution stipulates that. In this framework, we have to refer to the very important role played by Kuwaiti women in the past decades and the achievement of major acquisitions since it acquired political rights. Women are 4 women, for example, were elected in 2009. And many women fill leadership positions in many walks of life. And in spite of the fact that no woman managed to be elected in the elections that took place recently, however, the participation of women was very high, and they came to the elections. As for the equality in work, the civil service law does not include any difference on the basis of race or origin. The rates of financial awards or premiums are all the same, and there is a law to encourage the private sector where the legislator gave the same equality between men and women, and in particular as far as the wages and the awards at the end of service without any differentiation on the basis of sex. Kuwait is a country where it is free for every resident and national to live or to choose the place of residence in complete freedom. The statutory instrument considers the passport as a document that must be kept with every person and it guarantees the freedom of his or her movement. And no employer can take the passport of any worker. There is also equality in the provision of credits and loans. Also, there is a possibility of laws that allow for members to buy directly in property. Women have the right also to have a property and to enjoy adequate housing. The decree by the Cabinet number 1 in 1987 stipulates that a woman that is married to a non-Kuwaiti can have an adequate housing from the government. and divorced women, widows, and the wives of disabled persons, as well as the families of martyrs and orphans and disabled people have the right to enjoy these housing given by the government. Mr. President, the freedom of association and the establishment of unions is also guaranteed by the law number 24 of 1962 regarding clubs and public benefit clubs and other associations. Many guarantees have been taken in order to organize these associations and help them to reach the goals expected from them. These associations will be established and must be published in the official gazette. Private associations are 91, and there are more than 79 charity associations. There is thinking to public information and to allow the establishment of new public benefit associations in order to encourage all those who want to volunteer in the social work, in the charity work. And if a ministry refuses to give license for such an association, they can have resort to the administrative court. What we need to affirm here is law number 6, dated 2010, regarding work in the public sector, did not include any article that would prevent non-nationals to join trade unions. On the contrary, it organized the establishments of trade unions, and the restrictions that were used in the past have been cancelled, and now it guaranteed the freedom of joining these trade unions for nationals and non-nationals alike. The number of trade unions that are publicly declared are 63, while the employers' unions are 42. As for the right to labor and choice of the kind of labor, Kuwait had brought in amendments to the implementing resolutions of the work in the private sector, where it allowed the guest worker and the workers the right to transfer their residency to another sponsor without the approval of the first sponsor after 3 years of working for this first sponsor. And this is in Ministerial Decree number 179/2009 and amended by Resolution 213/2011. Mr. Chairman, the articles of the Constitution stipulate the right to enjoy health care and health services. Health care and health services are offered to all without any distinction between the members of the society. They are given free of charge or with symbolic fees for non-nationals in the public hospitals, whose number is 6. We have many healthcare centers, which reach 92 centers, and other specialized centers whose number is 32. In addition to Dalika, the private sector contributes by having their own hospitals and private clinics. What proves the keen attachment of the state of Kuwait of the improvement of health is the increase in the expenditure on health services in 2011-2012 to $4.3 billion. That is 6% of the budget of the state, which, of course, has been reflected positively on the health indicators. The Constitution safeguards social security. Article 11 provides for social security for both men and women on an equal footing. Hence, law number 61 of 1976 was enacted in order to establish the organ for national social guarantees, which provides services for the workers in the government, and the private sector, and in the petroleum sector. Kuwait gave great attention to social services, and I shall mention some of them. The establishment of a shelter for the elderly since 1955 in order to provide daily care for them and domestic care for them, as well as legal care. The provision of financial assistance to the members and the families who are unable to provide for these people, particularly the widowed and the divorcee women, and that is because Kuwait is keen to provide a decent life to all of these. Also giving the chance for certain bodies to participate in this respect. For example, we have the Beit al-Zakat, which was established in 1982, and this Beit al-Zakat provides assistance in kind and in finance, as well as the health social guarantees, and it supports the charity associations inside Kuwait and outside it. Kuwait gave the right to education paramount importance, not only by supervising this right, but by confirming the right to equality and non-discrimination. Article 40 says that education is a right to the Kuwaitis, guaranteed by the states in accordance with the law and within the public order and manners. Early stages of education is compulsory and free of charge, and hence the law on compulsory education was taken and adopted in 1965 to give the right free of charge, compulsory to all male and females without any distinction.
Mr. President, the right to acquire the Kuwaiti nationality is a sovereign matter, and the state of Kuwait has accorded this matter all its attention. In order to eliminate discrimination amongst members of our society, some amendments have been introduced to the nationality law number 15 of 1959 in order to expand the base of those who are covered by the nationality and the acquisition of it. For example, I cite law number 11, 1998, which added Article 7 bis of the Nationality Act. According to the terms of this article, the nationality is given to the children of naturalized persons who have attained majority and their grandchildren of those who had not the occasion to obtain the nationality before. And law number 21 for the year 2000 is the law that addresses the acquisition of the Kuwaiti nationality by the children of the Kuwaiti woman married to a foreigner and or who has been irrevocably divorced, or if the father is a prisoner. And then there is the right of children with unknown parents or foundlings to acquire the nationality if they are born on the soil of the state of Kuwait, and in this case the Ministry of Social Affairs takes over their welfare. Mr. President, the question of unlawful residence is one of the greatest obstacles faced by the state of Kuwait. It is also one of the oldest problems that we have experienced amongst a number of other problems that are time related. On the one hand, this problem is one of the aspects of our demographic makeup. because those who belong to the category of unlawful residents in official statistics numbers over 105,000 individuals that have been registered in the civil register and 93,000 registered by the Central Committee. But on the other hand, the authorities concerned are seeking to find a solution to this problem, and the authorities have already formulated a roadmap in order to terminate this problem. Kuwait has got its ancient civil practices and has always dealt humanely and in a civilized manner with all those who live in our soil, and in line with our history replete with humanitarian initiatives and generosity, as well as extending all manner of aid and assistance to those who are in need. The state of Kuwait has provided dignified and humane life and living conditions for all those who live on our soil, and those we have translated in an adequate manner, where the central organ for the unlawful residence affairs has been established in November 2010, and that in line with the commitments that Kuwait has made and accepted during the UPR. The central organ has given social and civil benefits to the unlawful residents group according to Ministerial Decree 409 for 2011. I cite as an example of the benefits: free of charge medical care through the charity fund for those in need, education free of charge through the charity fund for the education of children in need, the issuance of birth certificates, the issuance of death certificates, the issuance of marriage contracts, the issuance of divorce certificates, the issuance of driving licenses, the enjoyment by those with disabilities amongst this group, the enjoyment of services that are given by the national authorities to other persons with with disabilities or special needs, and the right to obtain proxies and registration from the Ministry of Justice, as well as opening before them employment opportunities in both the government sector and the private sector, in addition to their giving them rations and ration cards for those who are in need. The organs responsible for this segment of our community will issue the various certificates that they need in order for them to be able to engage in procedures and transactions related to their lives. On the other hand, the government of Kuwait did not overlook the adoption of the necessary procedures in order to naturalize this category in line with the conditions of our Nationality Act, taking note of the fact that during the past few years, around 16,000 people of this category have been naturalized. In addition, the central organ now is preparing the list of those who are candidates for naturalization to submit it to the cabinet, and the second batch or the second group is also the list of names is also being prepared. Mr. President, concerning the procedures and the measures taken to protect vulnerable groups like domestic workers, the state of Kuwait has always been keen on adopting all the necessary measures to safeguard their rights, and that through the following: the adoption of decree promulgating law 40 for 1992 on the organization of the work of the domestic labor agencies for domestic workers and others, as well as the executive law, and that under law 617 for 1992, which provides for the protection of domestic workers. And in Article 2 of the said decree, it is prohibited for the agency and the worker to take any sums of money from the domestic worker in exchange for finding them a job at the employer. Second, the establishment of the Directorate for Domestic Labour, affiliated to the Ministry of the Interior, and which carries out inspections on the various offices for the importation of labour to make sure that the terms of Law 40/1992 are respected, as well as Ministerial Decree 1182 of 2010. Here, the agencies that have not respected the law are being investigated, and also the Directorate receives complaints against the sponsors in case the labour workers are not paid, or also against the employers. The new contract has been prepared for it to be tripartite for the labour importation. It includes the worker, the agency, and the sponsor. And in this case, the rights of the worker are clearly stipulated, like the wages, housing, food, clothing, in addition to the fact that the passport cannot be withheld from the worker, and the worker is entitled to a weekly day off, as well as a ticket back home and a 2-month holiday after 2 years of labour. Also, the Ministry of the Interior has made it necessary for the sponsors and for the agencies for the importation of labour, has made it necessary for them to forward a copy of the contract to all to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and to our missions abroad, so that the migrant worker would be aware as of the beginning of their rights and their duties. Also, Resolution 652 of 2007 has been adopted, and it establishes a foreign labour shelter, especially for domestic workers who are in dispute with their employers. In this shelter, they are received in cooperation with the Ministry of Social Affairs, and here they receive health, psychiatric care, as well as social services. Also, the Ministry of the Interior is keen on training its officials to combat the trafficking in persons, and this takes place through the various training courses that are carried out in cooperation with the various international organizations like the United Nations, and to date 10 sessions have been held in 2011. Also, the National Security Faculty prepares programs on human rights, and those are circulated to the police, and as well, the curricula of the Police Academy include subjects related to international humanitarian law and the various issues related to the respect of the various conventions on human rights. Mr. Chairman, the State of Kuwait in 1996 signed a cooperation agreement with the United Nations High Commissioner's Office for Refugees, and in it there is a specification of the role of the Agency for Refugees in Kuwait. The UNHCR office in Kuwait plays a very important role in the protection and the follow-up of people falling under its mandate, and this is done through cooperation and in consultation with the government of Kuwait to provide these with international protection according to the statute of the UNHCR and according to the various relevant decisions and resolutions of the UNHCR that have been adopted by the United Nations General Assembly, and also efforts are made to find permanent solutions for the problems of those through the facilitation of their voluntary return to their countries of origin or through their integration in new communities. The UNHCR as well cooperates with the State of Kuwait in organizing and providing humanitarian assistance for these. And the State of Kuwait pays an annual contribution to the UNHCR totaling $1 million after it was raised from an earlier figure of 200,000. Mr. Chairman, we could say that the policy adopted by the state of Kuwait in combating racial discrimination is not confined to our internal affairs. Rather, this policy also is part of our foreign policy. Kuwait is one of the states active in international fora against racial discrimination wherever racial discrimination takes place. The state of Kuwait also does not make any distinction between the peoples and the countries that are poorer or that are developing, because we extend to those aid and assistance to enable them to make progress and to improve the livelihood and the welfare of their peoples. The various statistics of the Kuwaiti Fund for Arab Economic Development indicates that our assistance now is operating in 4 continents, and many of the countries have benefited of the various loans and grants by the fund. In addition, Kuwait participates annually in the budget of the various international organizations. We have always been keen on supporting the activities of the United Nations and its specialized agencies in the humanitarian field, and we do that by allocating 10% of our direct foreign assistance to support the activities of those organizations in the beneficiary countries. Also, Kuwait supports other international organizations like the ICRC, the IOM, and the International Fund for AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria. Mr. Chairman, we have come to this distinguished committee believing that through cooperation with you, it will be possible for us to combat all forms of discrimination. You know that there is no country in the world that could claim that it has the ideal setup or that is perfect, but we can here reiterate our determination to eradicate racial discrimination, to protect the dignity and the rights of man that have been enshrined in international instruments. What we are going to submit to you today is but an addition to the earlier report submitted by the State of Kuwait, and here we clarify the new elements that have taken place as to the International Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination. Once again, we reiterate that we will continue making every effort to protect and to strengthen human rights everywhere and for everyone. We welcome all the queries that you would wish to address to us or the recommendations that you would like to make, and we thank you and thank your distinguished committee for your keenness and your continued interest to protect everything connected with human rights and the dignity of man, and to find the best and optimum options to realize those rights for all, and we wish you success in this humanitarian effort. Thank you.
Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you very much, Mr. Marafi. And I would now like to give the floor to Mr. Avtonomov, Country Rapporteur. And I would also like to notify the distinguished colleagues that the list is open. I only have one person on my list so far, Madam Da. So the list of speakers is still open. Mr. Avtonomov, you have the floor. Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. I'm going to speak in Russian since I don't know much Arabic. I understand a little bit, but I can't speak in it. So first of all, allow me once again to welcome the delegation here. I already welcomed them in a different capacity, but now as country rapporteur, I'd like to welcome them again and commend all of us for renewing the dialogue. Unfortunately, we haven't seen the delegation for more than 10 years, but we are happy that the report has now been submitted and that we have a chance to discuss everything face-to-face with the distinguished state party. I would also like to thank the delegation for the oral presentation. The oral report does supplement the written report. It contains new information, and the position of the state party has been rendered clearer on a number of issues. At the same time, I cannot but mention that the report does not fully comply with our requirements, which are laid out in the appropriate document, and that is the guidelines for the submission of reports in the Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination. I would like particularly to thank the Secretariat for its invaluable assistance, inasmuch as it was more difficult for me as both chairperson and country rapporteur to get ready for this exercise. I couldn't leave the room very often. I would also like to draw your attention to the fact that in the country presentation it says that there's no core document. I seemed that there was one, but it's been combined with the report, which also does not comply with the guidelines for the presentation of the core document, which should be a general, universally applicable document for all treaty bodies. It's supposed to be presented separately, and that's why perhaps I had the impression that there was that document, but it's not separate. If you take the report without the core document, the second part, it ends up being only 17 pages long. I know there are sometimes members of the committee who scold states parties for long reports, but I think 17 pages is too short, given the fact that we haven't met for such a long time, and that we would like to receive a bit more information this time round. Nonetheless, although it's 18 pages, I correct myself, there is quite a lot of information nonetheless, and from this information one can form a picture as to what is happening in the state party, what they are doing. The core document attaches a lot of importance to the question of education in terms of non-discrimination and human rights. This is always important, because naturally it is not always possible through repression or repressive methods to bring about non-discrimination, but you'll have to inculcate a human rights spirit in people. And I would like to thank the delegation for raising this issue in the oral presentation as well. Well, I could not but say a few words about the report, because we always evaluate the report, but I do hope in future we will meet more frequently. Usually, reports are supposed to be submitted every 2 years. Sometimes a bit more time intervenes, but I felt it was my duty to draw the attention of the distinguished delegation to the fact that there are guidelines on reports, and they should be drawn upon, because they are useful for our committee and also for the states parties. I would like to draw your attention, Mr. Chairperson and distinguished members of the committee, to the fact that Kuwait is a relatively small country in terms of its surface area, although, of course, it plays a big role in the region. It is a small state with a population of about 3.5 million individuals. But out of that number, about more than 1 million are citizens of Kuwait. I draw your attention to this because I think this is the root of a number of problems which I cannot but draw to your attention, and among which I think there are some issues that we cannot pass over in silence as a committee, inasmuch as there is a problem, or there are problems here that require solutions. Of course, we cannot solve them. It's up to the state party to do that. But we, as independent experts, are not acting in judgment. We're not condemning anyone. We're not condemning the state party or Kuwait in this particular case. Our work is to help you, to draw your attention to issues, and then it's up to you to resolve them. So I will come back to that point a bit later. Now, let's look at the fact that Kuwait is a constitutional monarchy, and the constitution goes back to 1962. It's quite a long-standing one with quite a strong parliament. We can note that not all states of the Gulf have such long-standing constitutions, and not even all of them have parliaments. They often, in their constitutions, talk about parliaments, but they don't always elect a parliament. I think your neighbor, Saudi Arabia, has something in place, but it's not really the same as the constitution provides for. I would like to draw your attention to the fact that the parliament, the Majlis, Umma, is elected regularly. Women have been elected to it as a result of recent changes, which were reported by the State Party, but I have information to the effect that right now the Majlis, Yuma, has been dissolved as of December 2011. Perhaps I'm wrong. And that have you held new elections? Have new women been elected? But the fact that women play a significant role in the life of Kuwait is clear. The delegation consists not only of men but also women, and this is an important feature. We always pay attention to these issues as well. As for our convention, the Constitution, Article 29 talks about equality and non-discrimination on the basis of religion, race, color, and gender. These are important elements, but even my modest knowledge of the Arabic language shows that this wording does not fully correspond to the wording of Article 1 of our convention. And this is an important aspect as well, and I will further dwell on this at a later stage. I would also like to say that Kuwait has ratified a significant number of international conventions. We always note this. This shows how dedicated Kuwait is to human rights. And indeed, it's playing an active role not only within its own borders, but outside as well. At the regional level, Kuwait has signed the Arab Charter of Human Rights. I understand that there is a revised version. There's an old version and a new one dating back to 2004. In the periodic report, in paragraph 12, it says that when drawing up the report, there was a submission of the draft to the Majlis. I would like to know what the situation is right now as to whether this charter has been approved. It has not yet been ratified, but it's still important. As far as I understand it, Kuwait, as a member of the Islamic Conference, has adopted the Islamic Declaration on Human Rights as part of that organization's work. This is important because it also contains provisions which relate to questions of non-discrimination. And we always have underscored and continue to underscore the fact that accession